Next on UConn Sports Nation, it's tournament time, so naturally hopes return for UConn basketball. Only is that the case this year? I'll discuss with beat writer Gavin Keefe. Point guard Jalen Adams was named to the AAC first team, and it's absolutely deserved. And spring football is just 2 weeks away. Hear from new tight end coach Corey Edsall on how he's adjusting back home. This Tuesday edition of UConn Sports Nation starts right now. Welcome into a Thursday edition of UConn Sports Nation. Matt Shumbisky, your host, as usual, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And I want to dive right into a preview of tonight's AAC tournament opener for the UConn men's basketball team, as I talked earlier this week with beat writer Gavin Keefe to do just that. On the UConn Sports Nation hotline is men's basketball beat writer Gavin Keefe of the day down in New London. Gavin, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, anytime, Matt.
So the Huskies enter Thursday's AAC tournament as the 6th seed, facing USF on Thursday. Going to dive into the potential matchups later on, but the biggest thing in my mind entering this is going to be health. What's the state of the team's injury situation right now?
Well, they're pretty banged up. I mean, Vance Jackson is still in concussion protocol. They're hoping he'll be ready. He's had a few extra days. They just played on Sunday, so he's had some time. And Jalen Adams is really probably the biggest problem because he's got a bad ankle. He sprained the ankle, and he hasn't been able to bounce back from it. And, he's really hobbled. He's limited what he can do. I mean, I know he can get some rest and treatment during these days leading up to Thursday's game, but, he's not going to be 100%, not even close to it. So, I mean, they really need him to be, healthy and be able to lead the team and score some points. And, he's reluctant to attack the basket right now because he just has a bad ankle. So he's the biggest key right there. You got to get him as healthy as possible.
Now, staying with that, with Adams' inability to really get into the paint, what does that do to the UConn offense?
Well, I mean, it just really limits him. I mean, he's the one that sets up the big men inside for baskets. I mean, the other guys he leads the league in assists. So he can draw the defense and kick to Facey and to bring him down low for layups. He throws the alley-oops passes to Tuamita. I mean, he just opens up the inside. He feeds the inside guys for baskets. And they need an inside game to be really effective because they're not a great perimeter shooting team.
Yeah, and should Adams get into the lane and kick out, shooting is going to be key for UConn should they want to advance through the tournament. And a lot of that's going to fall on how Rodney Purvis is able to perform. Last time the tournament was in Hartford, of course, he really carried the team to the finals. And during the 7-1 stretch this season was shooting 56% from three during that time, but it has since fallen off. How big a factor is Purvis and the Huskies' overall team shooting ability going to determine UConn's fate?
Well, he's a big factor. I mean, he played well last year in their run to the conference championship, the tournament championship. He's so streaky, though, Matt. I mean, he has stretches in games and in over a week or so where he'll shoot really well and then he'll tail off. I mean, as you notice in a lot of games this year, he gets his baskets like within 5 minutes. He'll score hit 3 or 4 straight shots and then, go 4 for 5 in a 7-minute stretch, and the rest of the game be like 2 for 14 or not maybe not that much, but 2 for 10 or something. Mm. He's just a very streaky player, and they need more consistency. They need something out of everybody. I mean, they need to shoot the ball because the good teams like Cincinnati, if they get that far, are going to play matchup zone. So they need to shoot the ball from the outside. That's why getting Vance Jackson back is key. He's one of the top 3-point shooter in league games. I'm not sure what state he'll be in when he gets back, but they really need him as a perimeter threat too.
Yeah, and I think what you touched on with Rodney Purvis' game, I think you saw against Cincinnati at 13 points in the first half, I think only 2 in the second. What can you attribute to that, I guess, in and out of his zone that he gets into? What do you think is the cause? Is it what teams are doing defensively, or?
That's a tough question. The other day they looked for him more in the second half. They paid more attention to him defensively. He's got to get some baskets in the open court a little bit when they've been limited in their transition game, but him getting to the basket, for some easy baskets kind of helps him. If they just turn him into a jump shooter, he's going to struggle because he's, like I said before, he's streaky. So, I just don't think he's a great offensive player. He's just a streaky offensive player.
I'm talking with Gavin Keefe of The Day, previewing the upcoming AAC tournament in Hartford on Thursday. Now, on Thursday, UConn is the second game of the night session, like we said, playing USF. A team the Huskies defeated twice during the regular season by an average margin of 33.5 points. So really, in my mind, regardless of the health situation, UConn should at least move on to Friday's quarters. Is that your thinking as well, and what do you think of this matchup with the Bulls?
Oh, I totally agree. It really ended up being, outside of not getting, they've been better off getting a bye, obviously, but the way it ended up being best case scenario for them. They play South Florida. They're just not a good team. Their record in 7-22, 1-17 in the league. They only beat East Carolina. Like you said, they handled them really easily during the season. And I think, health aside, they still should beat them playing at home, fairly handily. They really should. It's just been a really dismal season for South Florida. So, it sets up pretty well for them. Then after that, they're going to get Houston with a 3 seed. They did lose to them twice in the regular season, but they were more competitive against them than they were against Cincinnati and SMU, and that's a winnable game too. So I think it all goes back to the health of Jalen Adams. How effective is he going to be able to be?
Yeah, speaking of Houston, that's potential second game on Friday. What do you think of the matchup with them? You did mention Houston defeated UConn twice this season. What do you think of that matchup, and what's the realistic projection? Should the team be healthy? What's your realistic projection for how this tournament could play out?
Well, I think they can beat Houston. Houston's got, they just announced the all-conference teams. Jalen Adams made first team, and Houston put 2 guys in first team, Dotson and Gray, who Gray's the top scorer in the conference, and Dotson, I think, is 4th in overall games. So they got 2 of the top scorers in the league, and that's really the key with Houston, is containing those guys. And they've had games where they've done already against Gray, but he's one of those guys who will be quiet for 22 minutes or so, and then he can score in bunches. So containing those 2 guys is always the key to stopping Houston. But that's a winnable game. That's definitely a winnable game. I think their ceiling is probably semifinals. Cincinnati would be the team they would play, and Cincinnati and SMU really separated themselves this year. I really can't see anybody else but one of those 2 teams winning the tournament. And UConn's been 0-6 against Houston, Cincinnati, and SMU this year. They haven't proven that they could, beat those teams, and not being fully healthy, I don't think they can, at least at this point. Maybe if they're a healthy UConn team, might give a shot to get to the finals. But I don't think they're at a stage that they're going to be able to go past the semis.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and to me, one of the reasons why is rebounding. Just take a look at what they did in the first half early against Cincinnati on the offensive glass. Cincinnati was absolutely dominant. I think they had 10 offensive rebounds in the first 8 minutes. How do you think Kevin Ollie could potentially solve the rebounding issue? Can he move things around defensively, put guys in better position when shots go up? How can you kind of address that problem in a very short period of time here before Thursday?
The thing is one, they don't have a lot of depth. So, when the 2 guys up front, Amita and Facey get in foul trouble, so pick up a couple early fouls, they have to back off as far as their aggressiveness, rebounding. So that hurts them. Number 2, UConn has never, or at least the last few years, they're not a physically tough team. They've always had trouble against physical teams underneath the basket. And that's the other issue. You see what Clark did against them with Cincinnati. SMU's got athletes that they both those teams attack the board, in waves. They send 2 or 3, 4 guys to the backboards, and UConn is just not able to combat that kind of team. So down the road, they need to get some more physical guys up front. Steve Enoch is got some potentially great offensive skills, but he's not a great defender, and he doesn't really mix it up yet. So, I don't think they have the toughness to really combat that. What you really have to do is get those, when you play a team like Cincinnati SMU, you got to get those teams in foul trouble, because SMU is not deep, and they're different teams when they don't have their stars out there. So, that's their best chance. And don't play from behind. The gifts of good teams UConn's not a great team playing from behind, and you really have to get off to good starts, and that's been an issue this year for them.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And one thing they should have during the tournament is crowd support. So thanks, Gavin. I definitely appreciate you joining, and certainly look forward to catching up with you later this week in Hartford.
Yeah, great, Matt. You're doing a great job.
UConn is the second game of the night session tonight in Hartford. And if you can't make it to the Edsall Center, you can see the game on ESPN News. After this break, I'll be back with new football tight end coach, Corey Edsall. You're listening to UConn Sports Nation, presented by ThisIsUConnCountry.com, where you'll find the latest news, game previews, and recruiting when it comes to UConn football. What was your reaction? Obviously, you spent a lot of time here growing up. You played AAC athletics.
Yeah.
All that.
I was, first of all, I was really happy to see him because I know when this thing came open, I know this was the one he wanted to do. I know this is the place where he wanted to be a head coach again and kind of get this thing turned around. And I know that's why I was excited for him, because he wanted to be here really badly and try and get this thing going. But yeah, I was excited for him.
You've had a lot of experiences, I think, in Maryland, just coming from Colorado. How's that helped you to get to where you are, and what can you take and learn from, and what have you learned from those positions?
Maryland, I was kind of like a student assistant coach, like almost GA type. So I've been doing that for a long time and working on the offense with quarterbacks, with tight ends, with receivers. That obviously is going to help me now. And then going to a place like Colorado, kind of a similar situation as far as the program had been not where it was. And to do what we did this past year, and no one gave us a chance to do what we did in the Pac-12 South, playing the Pac-12 championship. There were a lot of similarities, and seeing that from behind the scenes at a place like that, where there's a lot of similarities between there and here, and with recruiting and how you have to recruit there, and to see that's a very valuable experience that I can have.
What was that experience like, going from no expectations to Pac-12 championship?
It was pretty wild. Going into the season, we knew we had a good team, but we weren't sure really what to expect. And the way we beat Colorado State in that first game kind of set the tone. It set the tone, and there was confidence, and there was a mindset that we're not going to be stopped. And we had 2 losses, and one to Michigan, one to USC, and obviously they were really good, and they were pretty close losses. But it was just kind of seeing that team grow, who was a very senior-laden team, to see the confidence after every game, to see it just kind of snowball. And that whole month of November, it was like, you better get out of the way because we ain't leaving. So to see that was, I'm looking forward to seeing that here.
Coaching tight ends, there's quite a bit of tight ends on the roster, very talented guys. How did they fit into coach last week?
Well, the good thing with the tight end is we do a lot of things, and all of our guys can do that. We will play multiple positions, whether it's in line or flexed out, however you want to say it. But for what we want to do, athletically and size-wise, our guys can do everything what he's wanting them to do. The offense will install.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
That's all the time I've got for today. I'll have full post-game coverage throughout the AAC tournament on ThisIsUConnCountry.com, and of course live coverage on Twitter. Until next time, go Huskies. You're listening to UConn Sports Nation, presented by ThisIsUConnCountry.com, where you'll find the latest news, game previews, and recruiting when it comes to UConn football.